ask our board chair, Reverend Thomas, to come up and he's going to start the meeting.
Good afternoon. We welcome you. We thank you for coming. I was just thinking, the power in this room, the caring in this room, the ability to change things in our society in this room. It's a phenomenal group, and we appreciate very much your being here. We appreciate what is done through Community Care Alliance. I especially want to thank the board members for their work, their volunteer work for the board here at CCA. And one of the things I've done as a new chair is to start to make the rounds to the various departments of CCA. And it's been eye-opening, and it's been refreshing, and I can hope to continue to see the work, see firsthand the work that's being done through CCA. Thank you very much for coming. I'm going to take care of some business, and so we can move on. I call the annual business meeting to order. First order of business, is there a motion for the Board of Directors to affirm the list of friends of Community Care Alliance found on page 2? Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Moved and seconded that we affirm the list of Friends of Community Care Alliance. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Is there a motion for the Friends of CCA to re-elect Nancy Benoit, Dee Henry, Denise DeSalt, Leduc, Linda Stein to 2-year terms as CCA directors to the public sector? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Is there a motion from the Friends of CCA to re-elect Molly Champagne-Berg and Charles Knoll to 2-year terms as CCA directors to the private sector? Is there a motion? Thank you. Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Is there a motion from a friend of CCA who's also a Woonsocket resident to re-elect Bambi Hammond, Jeffrey Thomas, Maria Uzanowski, and Carol Wilson Allen to 2-year terms as Woonsocket directors? Is there a motion from a friend? Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Thank you. Is there a motion from the Friends of CCA to elect Christina Contreras Fox to the public sector and Kane Goodson to private sector 2-year terms? Is there a motion? Thank you. Second? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much. We're doing well. We're doing well. Is there a motion from the CCA Board of Directors to ratify the appointment of directors as listed to the boards of the 4 HUD borrowers corporations found on page 2? Directors, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved in second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Thank you very much. This ends the motions related to the elections. The minutes of the annual meeting held June 23rd. The minutes were reviewed by the Board of Directors at the July 20, at the says July 2024. They were reviewed July 2023. July 2023 meeting and placed on file until this meeting. entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the June 20th, 2023 annual meeting. Is there a motion? Thank you. Opposed? Feels like an auction. All those in favor?
I want the prize.
Before adjourning this portion of the annual meeting, is there any further business? Does anyone have any further business before we adjourn this meeting? Yes, ma'am. We just did that. Oh, the officers of the board. It's not listed, but we should.
It's on the bottom of the page to the right. The right-hand side. The same page on the bottom.
Motion to elect the officers of Community Care Alliance. Opposed? All those in favor, second, did we get a second on this?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that means I'm gonna be the chair another year?
Yes.
I didn't catch that.
Want to revote?
And did we move to adjourn?
No.
Move to adjourn. All right, so the meeting is adjourned. I thank you very much. There was one piece of business that I will refer to the board. I specifically asked Ben not to wear a brown suit today. We'll take that up on the board. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Reverend. Before we get started, we're gonna have a brief video that I hope sort of sets the tone for the rest of our meeting today. So if we could dim the lights and do your thing.
At Community Care Alliance, there are safe spaces where people can be. It's about respite, protection from harm.
When I was a kid, I used to do bad stuff. No one helped me, no nothing. I went to jail twice. And yeah, so I came here, I talked to them, they helped me. I actually kind of changed a little bit.
Growing strength and resolve.
Creating safe and brave spaces, so being safe with yourself, being safe with others, but another component that is, I think, integral to creating safe spaces is creating brave spaces as well.
If BH-Link didn't exist, we wouldn't have this service. We wouldn't have a place somebody could go with a mental, behavioral health, or substance use crisis.
Tendering relationships and trust.
Universal acceptance. They don't have to feel like someone with a mental illness as much as someone that is just coming here to hang out and have a good time with some friends.
Greeting character with acceptance.
Come through those doors, my sole purpose is to help you. You're trying to relieve your stress of being homeless and now you have an addiction.
Offering support and resources.
We don't put people into a box. We let people be people. These are not boxes to be checked. These are human beings. They all have, different stories. They all have different backgrounds. They all have, their own story, their own personality.
These are places of rest and relief.
Nobody will really judge you here. Like, this is like your own little getaway. Like, how will you say? You can really just be who you are.
We meet people where they are.
Our complete service delivery is meeting a parent where they're at, identifying their strengths, honing in on them, utilizing them, and then identifying their challenges.
Making sure that, the parent has someone on their side and really advocating for them to make their family whole again.
And nurture hope.
Ultimately, we're all working together, maybe in different programs, but we are crossing paths with the same clients, more likely than not. We all have the same end goal, and just take pride away from what you're doing and remember, it's okay to reach out. Let's connect and let's do the good work. Let's do the good work for our people.
there it is. So, I want to thank our mighty communications team for that brief video, particularly Colleen Joubert, Wendy Pires, and Greg Gaylord, who's our video master. They are really the force behind telling stories here at the agency, and if you look at our website, you will see all kinds of stories, as well as on social media. So, you know, the video really only sort of scratches the surface. You know, we wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot in terms of the agency and more about the spirit of the agency and what I refer to as the vibe, if you will, that our staff go to work with every day. The two themes that we really tried to articulate were safe spaces, number one. Safe spaces because the people that we work with every day encounter all kinds of obstacles in their daily lives. They've been battered oftentimes, they've been traumatized, they've been dealing with systems that really treat them poorly, and they oftentimes feel unseen. And so that's the starting point for our staff. And you know, their job is to work through that. And the other thing that we do is we meet people where they are. You know, we meet people at a point in time when they're often in crisis, when they're often at the end of their rope, when they're not knowing what to do next or where to turn next, and so forth. And that's important because we're not there to force anything on them. We're there to be the helping hand that they need. We're there to see them for the human beings they are, and that helps to propel us forward, no matter what the program, really. You know, we have about 50 programs in this organization, and so this is where every program starts, creating a safe space and meeting people where they are. And those are sort of the guiding themes that we work through every day. The other thing that I just wanted to emphasize in terms of our staff is that what our staff do every day requires, in my opinion, two things. One is skill, and the second is grace. Skill, because so many of the people we serve really don't know how to get to the next level, if you will, and are struggling with that engagement or struggling with trust. And it requires a skillful person to be able to connect with them. Grace, because we see the people that we work with as human beings, and it requires compassion, and it requires seeing them in all their complexity, with flaws as well as their beauty. And those are not small things that our staff bring to this work on a daily basis. I want to say that, you know, I can't thank our staff enough for the work that you all do, and the effort that you make every day in terms of trying to solve problems and transform people's lives. It is not a small thing. Think about today. You know, on the one hand, it's a beautiful day, but on the other hand, it's a pretty oppressive day. And so, as we speak, you know, we've got staff out in the field. We've got staff out distributing water. We've got staff reaching out to make sure that their clients are okay. You know, whether it's a day like today or whether it's 30 degrees. our staff are out there and trying to make things better for the people that they serve. So I just want to say thank you to our staff. What you do every day matters. What you do every day makes a difference in the people that come to this agency's life. And it is often the difference between life and death for some people. So I want to thank you for that. The other thing that I want to say is that behind all of these staff that are doing direct services is another sort of small army. And I want to start with our finance staff. You know, no organization like this operates without a fairly robust finance team that's out there, in our case, not only trying to pull the money in, but also dealing with, I can't tell you how many funding sources, well over 40 funding sources. And that's not a small thing. That's not a small thing in terms of, you know, keeping everything organized and where it should be, and most of all, making payroll on time. So I want to thank our finance team. I want to recognize Rita Gandhi as CFO. In addition to that, our admin and operations team deal with all kinds of regulatory and compliance issues. They deal with IT, they deal with electronic health records, and they maintain 21 sites. 21 sites in this organization. I was talking to a friend of mine recently, whose son actually is working for us for the summer, and he said to me, "Oh my God, I never realized how many sites that, you all have to manage." And it is not a small thing, because there's always something going on. I can tell you, there is always something going on. For instance, in these two back offices, they have no air conditioning. So we discovered that this morning, and we're in the process of having to figure out how to replace yet another heat pump. So I want to thank in particular Karen Rathbun, our COO, sitting back there. Mary Mensa, our deputy COO. Debbie Hawes for supervision and as Reverend Thomas reflected on the board, my feeling has always been that the board of directors in an organization like this really are sort of the keepers of our mission and our values. If you think about it, this board has been around in some iteration for 133 years. 133 years that have been serving this community. And so that is not a small thing. That's 133 years of volunteer citizens who are taking the time out of their lives to recognize that there are people who are hurting and suffering and needing support, and putting their time and effort into that. So I want to thank the board. They've always got our back. They had our back through COVID, and they've certainly had our back recently through all of our ups and downs with CCDHC and everything else. So I want to thank the board for their support. And lastly, but not leastly, I want to thank our division vice presidents, Mary Dwyer in Community Support and Recovery, Bridget Bennett in Family Wellbeing and Permanency, Michelle Taylor in our social health division, and Katie Anderson in acute services. These folks are truly on the front line every day. I generally get calls from them every day, if not multiple times a day. Sometimes those calls sound something like this. I need to walk back from the cliff because something is going on, because there's always something going on in this organization. So, but they are the ones that really hold these divisions together, and they also work very hard in terms of cross-coordination amongst these divisions. And so I want to thank them for their dedication and their commitment. So I want to introduce our speaker, Tanja Kubas-Meyer. Tanja is the executive director of the Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families. We're extremely lucky to have Tanja here today. Tanja was also the first executive director of the Rhode Island Coalition to End Homelessness. And so Tanja is a friend and someone who I hold in high regard. And one of the reasons I hold her in high regard is because she's a macro practitioner. She's a policy person. And so one of the things that I've begun to say more out loud over the last couple of years is that services are just not enough. You know, we have been for a long time a service delivery organization. But the people that we serve deal with incredible social inequities. Racism, lack of affordable housing, food insufficiency, child poverty, an inadequate healthcare system, you know, and the list goes on. And the only way you get at those things is really to work within the context of the big picture and to really try to change things from that context as well. And Tanja's one of those folks that do that. It's my honor today to have Tanja come up and speak to me.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Ben, for inviting me. And my thanks really to the staff and the board of CCA for all the work that you do and all the support that you have given our really fairly still fledgling state coalition for children and families. Our coalition is now 43 organizations strong, and as the Reverend noted earlier, together we are strong and we are powerful. You may or may not know that Ben was the founding chair of our organization, which means, like many of you, he was my ultimate boss for a number of years. So we have that in common. But it mattered that Ben was there at the beginning and helped shape the vision for this organization so that it was not simply about child protection, it was not simply about any one aspect of families' lives, but it really took a broad view of children, youth, families, and communities, and we continue to try and build that out today. It has been a pleasure, and it continues to be a pleasure to work with colleagues at CCA, Bridget, obviously Ben, Mark, Mary, Darlene, Stump, Patty, Michelle. There's so many others, and I'm so glad to be here with you and so grateful for your participation. I also want to congratulate today's honorees, especially Richard, who I've known for a long time. My topic today is why we advocate, and frankly, why our advocacy is more important than ever. I'll talk a little bit about the work of the coalition and our priorities, some of what it takes to move policy, the successes we've had together, and why we hope you'll get more involved. I'm going to start with a quote from Nicholas Kristof, who's a columnist for the New York Times. And in February, sorry about that going in and out, he wrote a column called "When Americans Neglect Our Children." He notes, individually we adore and we pamper our children. We shuttle them from soccer practice to music lessons, and then organize their play dates with meticulous fanaticism. Yet collectively, we mistreat Americans' children, especially by the standards of many other wealthy countries. When we're formulating policies for children as a whole, rather than coddling our own little angels, we fall scandalously short. We prize children in the abstract, but as a society tend to ignore their needs. Children are more likely to go hungry or live in poverty in America than in most of our peer countries, and they are also much more likely to die young because of drugs, guns, accidents, and inequitable healthcare systems. The children, youth, and families that you serve here at CCA are those at the highest risk, and also they present the greatest opportunity for us all. Within the coalition, we understand that the path to well-being requires a common set of resources, supports, and services, as well as unique work with each child, young person, and family. That is why we advocate for solutions that prioritize access and equity for all. We work to embrace and include those that are excluded, and work to remedy the disparities in our systems that persist. We have a new mission that we're excited about and will be unfolding shortly as part of our strategic plan. And the mission is that the Rhode Island Coalition for Children and Families educates, advocates, and collaborates for transformational, equitable, and just policies, practices, and resources to support and strengthen children, youth, families, and communities. We're excited to add families and communities to our mission statement, as well as to make a strong commitment to anti-racism and inclusion in our strategic plan. So I want to tell you a little bit about the General Assembly session that just finished, as an example. In February, we announced 4 big budget priorities. Now, this does not, anything that I mention here includes things I didn't mention, so bear with me on that. But the first area was child well-being. We focused on the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, which has a very broad mission, as you know, for child protection, education, community supports like the FCCP, behavioral health, juvenile justice services, etc. Today, this department is serving kids and families with ever more serious needs due to all the factors that Kristof talked about. We're also very concerned about things like EI and first connections and other things, and we worked with partners on those issues. But at the beginning of the session, what we knew was that all the DCYF services had to be recontracted, right? The rate that the agency was going to get, and all the agencies were going to get to do this work hadn't been addressed in years. This was our chance to fix it for the next 5 years, and in fixing it, hopefully get new and enhanced programs. That was the goal, right? The budget, however, was probably $20 to $30 million short. It's a lot of money. It was daunting. And that was area 1. The second area was children's behavioral health. You're a mental health center, or you were, and you know that kids and families are facing serious mental health and substance use challenges, trauma, anxiety, depression, addiction, sending our children to emergency rooms all over the state and leading to placements all over the country. Services are most effectively provided in combination with families and caregivers, not necessarily the medical model of 50-minute hour. So we knew that there were 3 areas that we need to have investment in. We need to lift Medicaid rates, right? Medicaid being the floor that most of our families rely on. We needed to fund the CCBHC initiative, and I mean, huge congratulations. But we'll talk about that more. And DCYF funding again. We thought that with all of these investments, we might really start to turn the tide and rebuild an excellent system of behavioral health, as Rhode Island once had. But achieving these increases really felt like a long shot when the governor proposed that we should only increase the Medicaid rates by 1/3 of proposals instead of 100%. That was number 2, housing and homelessness. We know more than most, right? You know more than most that youth and families are struggling with housing, right? Rhode Island has seen something like a 70% increase in homelessness in the last 4 years, and obviously this is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. but the coalition joined really so many others, we were not leading, we were partnering, in urging the General Assembly to invest in solutions to homelessness. We pushed for direct rental assistance, we pushed for sufficient year-round family and youth shelter with appropriate and targeted services, and a $150 million housing bond that would create more deeply subsidized housing. Now, there's, just a couple things. The speaker was like, really? Anything else? And then we started talking about a child tax credit. One of the things we knew from the pandemic, and many families benefited from the pandemic child tax credit, right, which gave, it was $3,500 per family. And so anyway, we worked with, and then stopped as soon as the pandemic was over, and we worked with the Economic Progress Institute and with Senators Cano and Representative Tanzi on a proposal for our state that would provide an annual tax credit of $1,000 per child up to 18 years old. For single-headed households, the credit would be available for up to incomes of $100,000, and for two-parent households up to $150,000. We really wanted this to be a broad-based, both poverty lifting and also family enhancing kind of a credit. So we had these 4 huge proposals, right? So what do you need to make policy change at this level? You need analyses of the problems and proposals to solve them, data on who's impacted, and stories, as has been discussed, as well as analyses of the cost benefit to the state. We need communication, right, of what we know. We need people to influence both the grassroots elected officials, all of those people in the General Assembly, as well as the lobbyists and the senior leadership. You need champions among those elected officials who would prioritize and carry our water for our issues. And finally, you need a state environment that actually helps you rather than hurting you. This year, we had a really successful session. How? Right? Well, we did our work. We provided data on the challenges agencies are facing and worked closely with state folks to try and make our case. Clients and staff testified as to both the need and the impact of effective services, including CCA. We partnered with other groups that were working on human services and healthcare issues. We had champions in the legislature, and we created new ones, which included spending a lot of time individually with those members, including at their fundraisers. And we had a strong lobbying team with great relationships with leadership. And despite all of that, we were told over and over and over again there wasn't enough money, that there was $1 billion in requests, more than the state had. Then the U.S. Attorney's Office wrote a letter to the state threatening to sue them for not serving children in the least restrictive environment, because too many children have been out of state or in the hospital. So when the budget came out, it was better than we ever imagined. There was $35 million more for DCYF. There was full funding of those Medicaid rates. First ever $10 million plus for homelessness. Funds for CCBHC, both state and federal. Amazing demonstration grant. No progress on taxes, but some on Rhode Island Works benefits and on paid leave. So advocacy is a game of contribution, not attribution. We'll never know what phone call, what meeting, what lawsuit, what conversation, moved the needle, what donation. Change can be fast and substantial as it was this year, or it can be small and it can be slow, or endless in some cases. What we do know is that we need each one of you to be part of the process. As a sector, we can assist each child, each young person, each family member that comes to us in crisis, or we can work to change the conditions further upstream. As service providers, and I've been one as well, we can only help a family within the limitations imposed on us by policy and practice. It matters that people who know what the problems with our system are speak up to change those policies and practices. This includes bringing forward your own knowledge, as well as that of clients, former clients, and family members. It requires knowing and speaking with your personal elected officials, as well as attending events. I know it's a lot to ask of you on top of very demanding jobs, but I believe it adds so much in a new dimension to the job and also is an antidote for daily frustrations. In my job, getting to talk to actual people is an antidote. When you're talking to individual people, sort of seeing the systemic level potentially could also be an antidote as well. I mean, many of you already know your legislators and are experts at communicating with them. Others of you may not even typically vote. But this is an election year, and it gives us an important opportunity to get more involved and influence how our communities, our state, and our country move forward. That op-ed I started with Nick Kristof, he ended his op-ed with saying, the best metric for a society's future is how well it nurtures its next generation. So this election year, it's still him, let's look beyond the political horse race and culture wars to grill candidates on their policies towards children. We have work to do. Our coalition is available to provide information, training, resources to support both the agency, but also you individually. I'll give you my cell. Let me know how I can help. And I look forward to our continued work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanja. I just want to say, I think the other thing that Tanja alluded to was that sometimes advocacy is a long process. And one of the things that occurred this year, she mentioned the DOJ report. But it's my opinion that the coalition had direct influence in terms of what happened in terms of the DOJ investigation. And that investigation started at least 3 years ago, maybe 4. And so it wasn't until this year that that report emerged. Interestingly and strategically, it emerged at the right time. In terms of moving some things along. So I just want to thank Tanja again for her work with the coalition. I think prior to our beginning the coalition, we really did not have, from a children's perspective, a voice. There's always been an adult voice, if you will, through SUMLIC and other entities and so forth. But the Coalition for Children and Families has made a significant difference in a short period of time. So thank you, Tanja. We're going to move on now and to do some awards, which we do every year. It's hard to do awards in the sense that, particularly when you're involved in an organization like this, because there are so many people in the organization that are doing such good work and doing that work above and beyond on a daily basis, if you will. But we do this because we really want to, out of all of folks in the agency and the community that are doing good work, we want to highlight folks who particularly stand out, because of the work that they're doing and their leadership and so forth. So that's why we do this. So our first award is what we refer to as the Ubuntu Award. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Ubuntu, but Ubuntu is a concept that comes out of Southern Africa, and it means quite literally, I am because you are. And it means that there is no separation, if you will, between the humanity of people. And there are some individuals in our experience here that just exemplify that. We had 5 staff people who were nominated for this award this year, and I want to read all of their names. Kelly Kobani, who is our Director of Community Support, was nominated. Daniel Ruiz from the Youth Center. Julie Solan, our housing nominated. And Rocco Gentella. The person who was selected for this year's award is Donna Vear Hamilton. I just want to read a couple of things from the write-up that we put together, but amazing appeared a number of times. Amazing boss, amazing clinician, compassionate, kind, tireless, committed, supportive, and the list goes on. Donna's been with the agency for over 20 years. She is one of our premier leaders, if you will, in our children's behavioral health program. Donna is about the kids and the families. And Donna is about the community. She has lived through and worked through, all of the ups and downs we have been through in this organization, and she has stuck with it. And we have been better for having her in this organization, and this community has been better having her as a social worker. So, Donna, would you come up?
But I have a lot of family, both home and work here. So this award means a lot to me, and I think it's because of where it comes from. Because that part of my work is the most important thing, is being committed to the community and building a team that does this hard work. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I started really with NRI back when I was in high school, because I used to volunteer at the shelter. So I don't know where Betty is, but I used to volunteer at the shelter. She probably wasn't there. I don't know if you were there then, but when I was 16, I used to do work for my student council, and I'd go in there every month and do activities for the kids. So it's weird how things have come full circle in my life, and I'm back here doing this work, and I'm in my 40s now, so I'm not leaving anytime soon. But I just want to thank my family who's here, my sister who's my best friend couldn't be here, but my dad, he was a single dad, so he drove a very strong work ethic into me, so thanks, Dad. I'm a hard worker. My family, my husband, my kids, and the people I work with. I mean, people don't stay here because of the money. We clearly know that. There's a commitment here. There's a commitment to the community. I think a big reason why I stay here is because of the team and the people that are here. They're here for the mission. They're here for the type of work we do. They're here for the community. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I have tough days and I can't deal with the bureaucracy of things, or building space just had to be that up. But I sit with a child and their parents and I go into my zone and I'm fine. And I'm let all that stuff go. And I'm raising this team up to be like that. And I'm so thankful for them. They work so hard. If I could give them the world, I would give them more. So thank you, all of you.
So, our next award is new, and we refer to it as Advocacy in Action. So, when we were thinking about this award, thought sort of long and hard in terms of who was deserving of this kind of award. And a few years ago, I met Richard Asinof, who is the editor of Conversion for Rhode Island. And to Donna's point around frustration around building space, our introduction to Richard was his doing a story around a site that we refer to as 181 Cumberland Street that was for 40 years the home of the mental health center. 40 years ago, when I was a much younger social worker, I was based in that building, as were all of our services, kids, adults, emergency services, everyone was in that building. And that building was around for 40 years until it started to fall apart. And then we went head to head with a state agency called DCAM, and we were not able to get the building repaired. And we worked with Richard around putting stories together that really illustrated the value of the building to the community and how that building and the services in that building had responded to folks in need locally and had in fact saved the state millions and millions and millions of dollars. I think he did 2 stories, and we were not successful. It was probably one of the most frustrating periods of my career, and I know that staff were incredibly frustrated about it. But what became clear was that there was a way for journalism to play a role that was very advocacy oriented. And I've had the pleasure of going on and working with Richard on really multiple stories at this point in time around homelessness, around behavioral health, around other issues. And the thing about Convergence, the thing about Richard is he's not afraid to ask the hard questions. He's not afraid to speak truth to power. And to Tanya's point around advocacy, unless you're willing to speak truth to power, say what is in a factual way, then you're not going to get very far from advocacy and a policy perspective. And Richard does that week in and week out with his publication. And he goes out of his way looking for those stories, and sometimes he pokes the bear in terms of other journalists, who he thinks could could be more pointed in their storytelling as well. So we wanted to honor Richard today because I think this is a rare resource that we have here in Rhode Island that we can join with to tell stories, particularly for the folks who really feel unseen, feel as if they have no voice. So for that reason, we are very pleased to honor Richard today with this award, Advocacy in Action. So I'm just going to read this from the plaque. Advocacy in Action Award, Richard Asinof, in recognition of accuracy in reporting healthcare, social service, and behavioral health concerns related to neglected and marginalized populations for dedication in directly addressing policy matters on behalf of people that often feel unseen and have no voice politically.
The idea of when I launched Convergence Rhode Island was the recognition that stories, our own personal stories, are our most valuable possession. And it's the sharing of those stories that makes us human. And my ability then to take those stories and to share them with people across a broad spectrum enables us to create a neighborhood that we all can live in, where we all belong, where we all have a sense of connectedness. And Ben is right. Sometimes I poked people and results were they got pretty angry with me. And to this day, there are some people in high up places and institutions who refuse to have a conversation with me. I think I'm a pretty nice guy. I ask good questions, but I'm not going to be a mouthpiece for anyone. I'm not going to lie for anyone. And I'm not going to be afraid to challenge people to tell the truth. And there are a number of people who are here today who I want to thank. Peter and Toby Simon in the back, they've been supporters and writers and contributors. My sister Lynn, Pat Larkin, who goes back with me a couple of decades working together. Ian is here somewhere. I'm not sure, I put my glasses away so I can't say. My son is here with me. He couldn't make it, but he said he was there with me in spirit. And I'm sure I'm leaving people out and also the Attorney General who's here, who I've been able to develop a good relationship with simply because he's honest enough to tell the truth in a time when we are facing a huge crisis in healthcare. And so I'm happy to tell the stories. I'm happy to have people there to tell the stories. If you have a story to tell, I'm happy to sit down and talk with you about it. I even said, Tanja, let's sit down and talk. I want to hear about what's going on. And thank you to Ben for recognizing me and giving me an opportunity to be recognized. Steve Alquist is here too. He's a great reporter. I wish I could say that my health was better, but it's not. And so you can't say thank you enough, so thank you.
final award is the highest honor that we really bestow in this organization. It's called the Paul Dempster Award. It's called the Paul Dempster Award because Paul Dempster was a man who about 35 years ago really stood up in Woonsocket and took a stand against homelessness at a time when that was really, not something that you did. And Paul had this vision for creating a comprehensive organization with many services in it that would be available for homeless people. And we have 2 shelters now on Sale Street. Those shelters were a direct result of his work in the community. And we have done everything that we could to maintain his spirit in terms of really seeing unhoused people for the humans they are and the needs they have, and trying to work with them appropriately. And so tonight, we're giving this award to Desmarias. Felice was our HUD. We have a separate HUD corporation that manages about 100 units of affordable housing here in the city that houses folks with severe and persistent mental illness. And Felice is someone locally who spent her career managing affordable housing, particularly HUD-related affordable housing. And then when she retired, she stepped up and she continued to work with us as the chair of the board of our HUD sub-corporation. And Felice really kept the fires burning, if you will, through that sub-corporation for many years in terms of her leadership and in terms of multiple administrations. She was one of the things that I never had to worry about through the merger 10 years ago was HUD, because Felice was the board chair. We had a solid board, and those programs ran like clockwork. And it was in large part due to her diligence, her leadership throughout that period of time. So the other thing that you may be interested in is that she's Michelle Taylor's mother. So if any of you know Michelle, who is a mighty force, all 90 pounds of her, particularly for the unhoused population, you can really see the direct line. She takes no prisoners. And
I taught her that.
I'm guessing she got that directly from her mother. So it's our honor today to give the Paul Dempster Award to Felice Desmarias.
Okay. It's a hard act to follow all these people: Tanja, Richard, Donna, Michelle Taylor. I brought her up well. I just want to say that this is such an honor for me to receive this. I am humbled, and I'm sure there are many, many, many people who deserve this award as well. And I just happen to be the one they picked. My name was in the bag. So I just want to say that Community Care Alliance is very aptly named because it's a community that cares and it's an alliance that sticks together. And I thank you very much.
So we received a call yesterday from the Attorney General's office, and I got a call from Wendy Pires who said, guess what? The Attorney General's coming. I said, really? So I just wanted to welcome Attorney General Peter Neronha, and if he wanted to come up and just say a few words.
Well, the office got ahead of me. I did not plan to speak to you. I really came here because my friend Richard invited me. And the more I looked into what you were doing today collectively, I just wanted to be here to see all of you recognize. The work that you do is so incredibly important. It flies under the radar screen, frankly, of many Rhode Islanders who don't face the issues that you serve. You know, one of my greatest concerns, as Richard knows, because we talk about it all the time, and I won't drone on here, but read Richard's article because you'll know what I really think. But I do think that we're headed for failure in our healthcare system. And our healthcare system obviously includes the work that you do. So the work of the Community Care Alliance and all of you who have been recognized today and all of you who still do the work know to the extent that sometimes you may not be sure that the work that you do is really important to the people of the state, whether all of us know it or not. So thank you for all that you do.
All right, so any other business, Brad?
I just failed to mention the officers. I didn't mention the board, but just wanted to mention. I just did not include the names, and I'd love to make sure that we acknowledge Denise DeSalt-LeDuc, who's the vice chair, Kane Goodson, who will be the treasurer, he's coming on new, and Molly Champagne Burke. Would you three stand, please? These are the officers, including myself.
So this is the time when we do cleanup, and because I'm always reminded of who I forgot. So one of the important groups that I forgot in terms of our staff is our human resources team. I don't know how I did that. I can't tell you how important these guys are, particularly in terms of recruitment and retention and all kinds of other things as well. So I want to say that I appreciate their work. Okay, that concludes our meeting. I appreciate you all being here today. We have food, we have some drinks left, and so please help yourself. Thank you.